All right, let's bring on Andrew Bone of Bama Online. Andrew, huge list of expected visitors over on Bama Online. You guys got that running list going. I want to talk about some of the key guys that are going to be on campus, and let's start with five-star athlete Terry Bussey. What's been going on between Bussey and Bama behind the scenes, and do the Tide have a shot at pulling him away from Texas A&M? Because it sure feels like he is a lean in that direction.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Terry Bussey has visited Alabama one time. He visited back in April. So this is only his second trip to Tuscaloosa. I think if they would have been able to get him back on campus during the summer and then gotten him back for the official visit this weekend, I think Alabama would have had a lot better chance with him. Now, going into the weekend, I would say they're probably maybe fourth, fifth on the list. So we'll see if Alabama is able to gain some momentum this weekend. Obviously, it's a huge game, great atmosphere. He's going to be around a lot of Alabama commitments. I think there's 16 or 17 confirmed Alabama commitments who are going to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend. He's going to be around the coaching staff, obviously, and he's going to see a great game. So we'll know probably Monday, Tuesday, a little bit more about Terry Bussey's weekend. Hope to have some inside scoop on the Bama Online message board on the round table. So go check that stuff out after the weekend. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be big for Alabama to make a strong impression because he is going to be making a decision later on this month. I think he's set to announce on September the 28th, Texas A&M. Currently considered in the driver's seat. Obviously, there's some other schools that are in the mix as well, including Texas and Oklahoma. But Alabama is right there. They're going to try to make an impression this weekend and see if they can potentially sneak in and steal one away from the home state schools.
Yeah, we will see. Visits like this, it seems like Terry Bussey is destined to end up as an Aggie, but visits like this, games like this can change minds. All right. Let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. Edge Solomon Williams, he already took his official visit to Alabama. It went well, and he'll be back in Tuscaloosa this weekend. It seems like Alabama's in a good spot, but Texas, they could be making him a priority if Danny Okoye goes another direction. We'll talk about that later. But what's your read on where Bama sits with Williams as he's expected to announce later this month?
Yeah, Alabama's been high on Solomon Williams for a long time. They extended him an offer back in January. Now, he didn't get a chance like many recruits did and get a chance to visit many schools during the spring or summer. Only visited a couple schools during the summer, Alabama, Oregon, UCF, and then he took a trip to Texas on that last weekend of July. So Texas is trying to make a run at Solomon, but I think Alabama is in the driver's seat up to this point, and he is expected back in Tuscaloosa this weekend. Now, the biggest thing with Solomon Williams is he going to make a decision this month? Or will he continue to take a couple of official visits? Because there's a lot of schools that are out there that are still trying to get him to wait a little bit longer, take some official visits. But when you're around a program in that type of environment and that school is leading in your recruitment, sometimes it's tough to not go ahead and jump on board. So we'll keep an eye on Solomon pretty closely this weekend to see if he potentially makes a decision shortly after the return trip to Tuscaloosa, or if he stretches it out a little bit longer.
All right. Now, Daniel Hill, the running back out of Mississippi, he was set to make a decision a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago. I think he was going to make his decision, and it seemed like it was going to come down to either South Carolina or Alabama. He paused it. He hit the delay button. No word on when he will decide, but Alabama hosting him this weekend, like you said, with Solomon Williams coming out of this visit, do you think there's a chance that we could hear of Daniel Hill being ready to make a decision?
It's possible. Daniel Hill was expected to announce a decision on August the 23rd. I think South Carolina was in the driver's seat heading into that week, and the Gamecocks certainly felt very confident. And it's been more so an Alabama-South Carolina recruiting battle for the last few months. Last year, he said that Alabama was in the driver's seat, that they were the heavy favorite for him. I think he went to just about every single Alabama home game last football season. I think you go on his profile page on On3, and I think it's 12 or 13 visits that he has taken to Alabama as compared to maybe 3 to South Carolina. His family really likes Alabama a lot. Even though his dad played at Mississippi State, he's been a big pusher of the Crimson Tide over the last almost the last year. So we'll see what happens this weekend. as of right now, he does plan on waiting a little bit longer,
Hmm.
wants to take some more visits this fall, including a trip back to Columbia. He also wants to get to Knoxville and check out Tennessee again. So we will see if anything happens and potentially changes with Daniel Hill this weekend. But Alabama continues to press hard for Daniel Hill in this class. They don't have a running back commitment quite yet. Now they did sign two of the top four running backs in the country in last year's class with Justice Haynes and Richard Young, but they're still aiming to sign at least one great back in this class, and Daniel Hill is one of their top overall targets.
Yeah, they've had their sights set on Hill for quite some time now. We'll see what happens coming out of the weekend. Now, I was perusing Bama Online like I normally do every day, and there was one name on the visitor list that kind of piqued my interest, and that's five-star linebacker DeMarcus Riddick. He's expected to be in Tuscaloosa. Now, he flipped his commitment from Georgia to Auburn about a month ago. What do you make of him showing up in Tuscaloosa for this game?
Well, I think the biggest thing with DeMarcus Riddick is, does he show up in Tuscaloosa? Because he was originally supposed to visit Alabama for the Middle Tennessee State game. Then his mom told us last week that he was going to be making it for the Texas game instead. He went to Auburn this past weekend, said some comments, said something about he was glad he went to Auburn and not to Alabama.
I saw those.
So we'll see if we'll see if he ends up making it to Tuscaloosa. But obviously, a lot of people want to get to that game. Regardless if your interest in Alabama is high or not, you want to get to Tuscaloosa to watch Alabama, Texas at 6 p.m. At Bryant-Denny Stadium. So, I think the biggest thing with DeMarcus Riddick, if he does make it to Tuscaloosa this weekend, is, does he end up coming back to Tuscaloosa a little bit later on in the season? Does Alabama feel like it has a chance to potentially flip him down the road? Are they going to spend a lot of time and effort recruiting him while he's on campus or even after he visits Tuscaloosa? Because they really liked him early on in the process. They pushed for him. They recruited him all the way up until the end when he announced his flip from Georgia to Auburn. There hasn't been a ton of communication between the two sides since his decision. He seems like a very solid commitment to Auburn. Requested tickets for this game. So Alabama's providing, and I think they're just going to kind of see where it goes from here. But as of right now, he plans on being in Tuscaloosa on Saturday night.
Yeah, hey, I'm sure when he was on the plains last weekend for Auburn's opener, the Auburn Tigers staff was doing everything they could to probably get in his ear and tell him to skip that visit next weekend to Tuscaloosa. But like you said, hey, let's just see if he shows up. And who wouldn't want to? All right, let's turn the page here for a second. Let's go to the 2025 cycle. QB recruiting's heating up. Top guys are emerging. Teams are identifying their top targets. And one of the big names is George McIntyre. We opened the show saying that he's going to be here. He's from Brentwood Academy. He's a hot name right now. LSU, Tennessee, and Alabama all heavily involved. He's going to be in Tuscaloosa this weekend. How high is he on Alabama's QB board? And where do you think the Tide stand right now with McIntyre?
Alabama loves George McIntyre. This has been one of their top overall targets in that 2025 class. And, going back, looking at the guest list, there's obviously a lot of 2024 guys that are going to be coming in, but you start looking at 2025 and 2026, you see all the top-ranked kids that are coming in. It's almost mind-blowing. I think there's between the 2024 to 2026 class, there's 16 or 17 players ranked number one or number two at their position in the country. And George McIntyre ranks number two as the number two quarterback in the 2025 class. Now, this is a kid who's visited Alabama several times, including 2 trips to Tuscaloosa during the summer, was there in June, and then attended the Champions Cookout in late July. Has already developed a really close relationship with several Alabama commitments, including 2 pretty big name wide receivers, Jamie French and Ryan Williams. Ryan will at least be in Tuscaloosa this weekend, so we know that he'll be trying to recruit George to Alabama. But as of right now, I think that Alabama, Tennessee, probably duking it out. I think LSU probably also in there a little bit, but in the end, I see him choosing between Alabama and Tennessee. Obviously, Tennessee's going all in, making sure he feels like a top priority. We saw Josh Heupel attend McIntyre's game. Nick Saban doesn't do that. Nick Saban hasn't gone to a high school football game, I think, since 2011. So he's not going to be going to any high school football games just to see prospects this cycle or next or even in the future. But I know that Nick Saban considers George McIntyre one of his top targets, and he's certainly, I think, this weekend going to make him feel that way. There's going to be so many top kids that are on campus, and you have to go through so many names that are in town. and you have to really kind of pick and choose who you're going to speak to, who you're going to spend time with, who you're really going to show a lot of love to. George McIntyre is certainly going to be one of those guys.
All right. Well, it's going to be an exciting weekend. Now, George isn't in any rush to make his decision, but Andrew Bone, is there anybody that you have on commit watch this weekend?
Yeah, I'm always looking at any potential underclassmen that might decide to pop. Especially when you look at some in-state guys that are going to be coming in. Miles Johnson out of T.R. Miller, linebacker that received an offer from Alabama earlier this year or back in the summer. I think he's a guy that we're going to be watching closely. I think in the 2024 class, we're always going to be watching Solomon Williams and Daniel Hill to see if anything were to happen with those guys. I think in the 2026 class, one name, I don't know if he's ready to make a decision just yet, and probably prior to the summer, Alabama was on the outside looking in. But in the 2026 class, I'm probably looking at Tank Jones out of St. Paul's down in Mobile. This is a kid that has very high interest in Alabama. Now, as far as making a commitment this weekend, probably not going to happen. But I think Alabama's going to have a chance to really make a strong move with him because going into the summer, Alabama's probably on the outside looking in. I think they've started to make a real strong run at him. He's going to be the number one recruit in the state for that 2026 class. So there's going to be a lot of underclassmen that are in town from the state of Alabama in 2025, 2026. So this is a great opportunity, for Alabama to make a strong impression, but, to continue getting those guys back more and more throughout the season. This is just the second game of the college football season. You have so many top names that are going to be in town. There's going to be a lot more throughout the year.
Alabama will have a chance to make a statement on the field and also off the field with some of these elite recruits that will be on campus. Andrew Bone, you'll have it covered all weekend on Bama Online. Thank you for dropping by the Inside Scoop today.